You'll know when you have a wild woman. She'll practice her craft without boundaries. She is truly autonomous. Her loyalty is only to the family she serves, a midwife who will not allow herself to be held back by a system she didn't create.
This podcast is for the birth keepers who want to grow and change. We are open to learning through self-reflection and supportive community. We are creating this space to explore without judgment. We are remembering we were
Born wild.
I changed my mind.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Born Wild podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sophia, and today I have with me Christina, and she's here to share her 3 birth stories. So I'll just throw it over to you. You can introduce yourself and your family, and we'll hear your journey.
Hello, my name is Christina. My first time doing something like this, so I'm kind of excited. I have 3 kids, and I finally, on the 3rd try, had the courage to believe in myself to have a home birth, and that's how I got here. I am born in the area, born in San Francisco, raised in Petaluma, so I've been here quite a long time, raising my kids in the area as well. And I have 2 boys and a girl. My 3rd was my girl. And each one of them are their own beings. They're all so different. Yeah, I'm just, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm homeschooling for the first time this year. I kind of was doing it last year, but I'm really doing it this year. And just trying to get a hang of this whole mom thing.
Yeah, that's a new thing for a lot of people the last couple of years is I'm a new homeschool mom.
Yeah. So just adjusting. We're kind of crazy busy. I just got home like 2 o'clock in the morning last night from a trip. So just trying to like do the whole life thing with 3 kids. It's an adjustment, but it's a good one.
Well, dive right into your first story and wherever that starts from you, if there was like a conception journey or when you knew you wanted to be a mom, or just how did your first journey into motherhood start?
I'm not going to lie, I was terrified to have children. Not the physical part of having kids, but just being a mom in general was kind of a nervous thing for me. I had been with my husband a few years, and we decided, it was time to try and have a kid. I got pregnant on the very first time I tried. And so it went super quick, like I wasn't expecting that to happen. My first son, he's now 9. He was a natural vaginal birth, but he was in the hospital. And my pregnancy with him was good, but I had a lot of preterm labor with him. And so there was one point where he was going to try and come out at like 34 weeks, I believe it was. And but we were able to keep him in there for a little bit longer. But I had a really long labor with him. Like it was really long. I pushed for like 2.5 hours, painful. He was stuck, actually. His shoulder was like all weird in there and it was kind of stuck. He had his arm up over his head. And so it was a little tough. But I was lucky. I did have a doula with my first son. So I did a lot of the laboring at home. And I was in Sonoma at the time, and we were going to Napa to the hospital and to Queen of the Valley. And it was just such an, I don't know, it was just such an interesting journey. I just, the ideas that you think you have when you get pregnant for the first time, and then, the ball really starts rolling. It's just so different than what you can ever even dream of. In a good way, it just was different.
Was there anything that you ever like chalked up the preterm labor to, like caused by, or was it just kind of, who knows? We don't know why
I really don't know why. It just, there was never really an explanation for it. I was blessed in the way that I didn't have any health issues. He just started, I just started having contractions. My body, I guess, was just like, okay, let's do this, but he just wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really anything that kickstarted it that I'm aware of.
Because you said around like 34 weeks, and then he came at 36.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so was there anything you did in those 2 weeks to like stop the contraction?
I went to the hospital. They were monitoring my contractions. And then they just stopped. They checked, like, because I was like, man, I'm going back. I'm like thinking about, it's been so long, 9 years. They check because I was leaking fluid. Mm-hmm. My first baby, I didn't realize that you could leak anything other than amniotic fluid. And so they checked, and it wasn't, my water hadn't broken. So okay. I just was in the hospital for, a few hours while they monitored me. And then the contractions stopped, and then they would kind of start and stop for a little bit. And then they just stopped altogether until he came. So it was like a week span, I think, of the on and off, the stopping and going. And then we went for a nice long walk the night that he came, or the morning that he came, the night before. And I just told him, I said, whenever you're ready, I'm ready. And the next morning he came out. So, or he began the process of coming out, I should say.
Yeah. And how big was he?
He's little. He was 6'1". 6 1 ounce. He was really, really little. I remember my husband kind of has big hands, and I mean, him holding, he was just a little nugget in his hand. He was just so small. Yeah. So he had reflux when he was younger. Mm-hmm. For like the first 6 months of his life. He actually stopped breathing at like, I think he was like a month old. That was like crazy scary because I was by myself. My husband was working nights at the time, and that was a very scary moment. But I learned a lot with my first child.
I was going to say, what did you do?
Well, I don't know if you're a Game of Thrones fan, but I was binge watching Game of Thrones because I was by myself. And I had him in his little rocker, his upright rocker. And I could hear him breathing, and all of a sudden not breathing. And I just looked over, and I just kind of, you just second guess yourself, like, no way that just happened, and I'm like looking at him, and I don't see his chest moving. So I put my hand underneath his nose, and I don't feel any air. And then he started to kind of like get blue. And so I just flipped him up, onto his stomach, and I started, and nothing was happening. So I called 911, and luckily we lived like 30 seconds from a fire station. And the next thing you know, there's like 8 humongous firemen standing over me in my house. But by the time he got there, it felt like a million years. But by the time they got there, he had cleared whatever it was, and he started breathing again. But I had to go to the hospital and like do blood work and do all the stuff to make sure there wasn't some underlying issue. But they diagnosed him with reflux. And I ended up having to have him sleep upright for like the first 6 months of his life to help with that. And I was just a nervous wreck. So he ended up sleeping right next to me, which transitioned into co-sleeping, which worked out for all of us anyway. So yeah, that's kind of what we did. Sorry, say that again.
Oh, how do you get a baby to sleep upright? Like what?
Well, I just had him sleep in his rocker next to me, like the incline rocker thing. I just swaddle him in there, and I just slept with my hand on him, honestly, to make sure he was breathing for like 6 months. And it just had him right next to the side of my bed, and he was just in his little rocker. And so he was just, at a slight incline, just enough to keep him upright.
You said the reflux, I was wondering if it was like because of the position he was in, if he like had cut off his airway, but it was
No, it was just something, I can't remember exactly what the doctors said it, like the terminology they used, but it was just something going on in his stomach that caused things to come back up. It wasn't like the position of anything. It was just him. And it made sense because he had a lot of tummy problems, a lot of gas, a lot of constipation. Like there's just a lot going on in there. And so, yeah, it's just
so scary.
Very scary.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I feel like I did pretty well considering your baby stops breathing. I think I kind of left my body a little bit, but yeah, no, I learned a lot with him as an infant. There's a lot going on with him health-wise. And then my second son is 2.5 years younger. And I should say Riley never moved. Like I remember them saying, oh, kick counting, like make sure he's doing his thing in there. And I could never do it because he just was so quiet. He just was comfortable. He was really low in my pelvic area. Yeah, he was just a quiet kid. He just snuggled and he just hung out there. And Jackson came along and kicked me all the time and still kicks me to this day. He's just a very energetic kid, constantly moving. He was 7 pounds when he was born. I did have some preterm labor with him as well, but he was born at 37 weeks. It's interesting. It was the same kind of like week or two span for each pregnancy with the labor, the stop and go stuff. But he came way faster.
I can hear my. Did you end up doing the same thing where you like went to the hospital and things kind of stopped?
I didn't with him. So I had a different doula the second time. And I did not go to the hospital because I kind of recognized what was happening. So I was able to kind of adjust accordingly. The first time it happened, I was scared because in my head, I'm like, it's too early, and I was scared so much at the hospital that I knew that it was a stop and go thing. I knew my water hadn't broken, all these things. I didn't feel the need to go to the hospital. I just would check in with my doctor. But he went.
It's almost like you have preterm, like prodromal labor,
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it totally could be. No one ever like really identified anything about it. They, I just knew that that's happened my first, and it happened with my second, and it happened with my third. So, but he's super fast. He was born here in Petaluma, and I started because I was unsure of, we discussed this, with my third, I was unsure of what was really happening with my labor coming and going. I actually got in the bathtub with him because my labor pains were starting to get intense, and I was texting my doula, and she was actually at another birth and far away, actually. I think it was like in Healdsburg or something. And she's checking in with me, and I'm checking in with her. I'm like, oh, I don't know, it is pretty painful, but I'm not quite sure. And then it just kick-started. And I think start to finish, pushing and everything was like 6 hours for him. And my husband got home from work. A half an hour later, I'm puking in the sink. I'm peeing on the ground. I'm trying to waddle around the house, to keep being. And we go to the hospital. I'm like, it's time to go. We get there, and I could have just lost it on these people. And I know that they are doing their job, but I walked in. I don't even know how I walked into the floor because I was in so much pain. I was like holding the wall. But they asked me, they're like, oh, let's get your weight. Let's get your height. Let's like get all your vitals and like the whole routine, right? And I'm like, no, I'm literally having a child like right now. And they just didn't believe me.
Yeah.
And got in the bed. She checked me. She's like, yep, you're literally having a child. The doctor came in, wasn't even able to change. And in 2 pushes, he came out.
Yeah.
It was really, really quick. And my water broke while I was pushing him out.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really intense.
When did your water break with Riley?
Riley, I had been feeling sick like all night the night before. And kind of like the flu, just achy and just really not feeling very good. And my husband got home in the morning and I woke up and I just started crying. And I was like, man, I'm just feeling like I thought I was getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really don't feel good. And I woke up to go to the bathroom and I got out of bed and my water broke while I was on the toilet.
Okay.
And yeah, so that hit, my water broke with him. And I was like, okay, this is why I don't feel good.
So that kind of.
I remember actually thinking with Riley too, because at the beginning, the cramping and the contractions weren't as painful. And my mom had come over, she brought me a sandwich. I was trying to eat. This is before I'd vomited and done all this stuff. And I remember thinking, oh man, I do this, like, oh yeah, the pain's not that bad, just had no idea what I was about to get into. I mean, obviously it's survivable, right? We did it and I could do it. But at the time I thought what I was feeling was what I was going to feel. And it just was not anywhere close to
You
that.
just can't, there's only so much you can say about labor and then you just have to experience it.
Yes.
Can't quite put it into words.
You cannot to this day, when somebody asks me if I'm in pain, I don't know what to tell them, because in my head, I'm thinking pain. I'm thinking bone crushing pain. But that's not the scale that they're using, when they ask me about pain. So, it's funny. It's interesting. I don't know. I never thought that I would be capable of doing what I've done 3 times now. That's for sure. If you would have asked me that when I was 15, I would have said, you're out of your mind.
Yeah. And I think that's the whole point of it, is you get to carry that with you the rest of your life,
Yes,
what you're capable of.
Absolutely. I definitely have a more rounded understanding of the depth of the strength that I have, as a person. It changes you for sure.
Yeah. Before we move on to your daughter's story, is there anything about, other than what we've talked about, the pregnancies to note for either of the boys, or do you have any memorable things about the placenta being born, or about your breastfeeding journey or postpartum?
I remember with Riley, I've grown so much in the last 10 years. And even as a woman, looking back now that I have a daughter too, it makes me highly aware of what I want her to know and what I want to teach her. I think that we do little girls a disservice a lot of times in this world, because most people don't talk to them about their bodies. Even a lot of parents, they just don't have the words or the experience or the confidence or whatever it is to have these discussions with little girls about their bodies. And then into womanhood, when people talk about birth, yeah, there's labor, yeah, there's contractions, yeah, there's pain, but there is so much to know about birth, and it can be so different for each pregnancy and then for each person, right? Mm-hmm. And I felt so unprepared. I even read the darn books, I did the whole thing, and I just still felt like I didn't know. And I remember with Riley, after I pushed him for 2.5 hours, then they told me I had to push the placenta out. You'd think that'd be something that you kind of give somebody a heads up for, you're not done when you think you're done, And I remember thinking I had another child in there that I had to push out again. I'm like, are you sure there's not twins, And I remember that specifically being shocked when the doctor's like, okay, now let's get your placenta out. And I was like, what? Mm-hmm. To do this again? I mean, obviously not to the degree, but
no bones.
Yeah, but I mean, I remember feeling that was a feeling just of being just not knowledgeable and just feeling like I'm prepared, and obviously, like, I had a lot to learn about having a child, and a lot of it you just can't learn until you're in it. But I really, that experience, I feel like, is really going to shape me, even with girls should know about babies and coming into this world, but just making sure she really understands like the process of her body and like how everything really works and what happens, and just to be prepared, because I felt unprepared.
Yeah.
I felt like I could have known more.
Yeah, some grown women don't even realize that they don't pee out of their vagina.
Yeah.
Like they're like, wait, what do you mean there's another hole?
Yeah, it's kind of scary sometimes how little people seem to know about their bodies. Like, yeah. So, and then with Jackson, he's just a whirlwind. I laugh, but he's like a tornado, and he teaches me every day about staying grounded, like, and just my teacher. Out of the 3 kids so far, he's definitely the one that teaches me a lot about myself and teaches me about the strengths that people have, even though they're so different, and how each pregnancy can be so drastically different. I'm one of those people that really didn't enjoy being pregnant. I wasn't, I feel sad saying that, but
I'm with you.
I'm not the person that was like, oh my God, I just loved every moment and I loved this and I loved that. It was very hard on me, emotionally, mentally. It was very difficult. And so I learned a lot about myself in that process. There was a huge emotional growth that I personally went through, and then a physical change on top of that. So it was like, it was very draining for me to go through each pregnancy. Yeah. So I learned a lot about myself with him. Lots of postpartum depression too. My postpartum depression, I had it with Riley pretty bad, and with Jackson, it peaked. Like, it was really bad with Jackson. And I think that's why I learned so much. He taught me so much, was because I had to face a lot of stuff with him that I didn't face with Riley. And it prepared me for Everly. I've been lucky enough to not have the postpartum depression that I had with the first 2, because I did a lot of work and I found out a lot about myself the 2 pregnancies before. So it kind of, in a way, prepared me for my 3rd.
For anyone, I inhaled my own spit. For anyone who is listening to this and has struggled in the past with postpartum depression, you're talking about doing a lot of work. Is there any way you can elaborate on that for somebody who is like I want to do the work, I want to have another baby? What work are you talking about? Were there like practitioners that you had therapy with, or like,
yeah,
what you do?
So I don't know how in depth we want to go here. I don't even know how much time we have, but
yeah, whatever you want to share.
Okay, because I mean, my pregnancy journeys have overlapped with my spiritual journey, if that makes sense. So like, they all kind of hit at the same time. When I was pregnant with Riley, that kind of blew the doors open on the mediumistic part of my life, which I did not know at the time can happen. Childbirth can open a lot of doors. I've always had spiritual experiences, but I'd never really paid attention to them. And being pregnant with Riley kind of forced me to take a look at that. And then after I had him, it literally started all sorts of on my end that I had been ignoring for a long time. With being able to see spirit and sense spirit and all these things, I just didn't understand any of that yet. After having him, it forced me on that road, which I'm thankful for. And with Jackson, because I had started that journey, it's a lot of trauma from my childhood that I was working through, a lot of shadow work that I was doing, coupled with the postpartum depression that really made it difficult for me because everything just was happening at one time and it was really overwhelming. And I've never really shared this story publicly, and I don't know how people will feel. But when I was pregnant with Jackson, I had two souls that were communicating with me and kind of like fighting. So there was a little boy soul and there was a little female soul that were coming through, and they were trying to decide who was going to inhabit this body. And I had a hard time hearing the little boy, which is interesting because that's not how he is in real life. He's very outspoken now and he's very like direct. And but in the soul form, he was a lot more timid and quiet. He didn't come through as strongly as she did. She was so strong and she was so adamant that it was going to be her turn. She was sending me signs all over the place. Like we already had a name picked out for her, like all these things, that when it came time to find out the gender and they told me what the gender was, I did not believe anything that they were saying. Like I got a second opinion on the gender because I was like, the first photo, like the umbilical cord was covering the area. I'm like, how can you really tell? I never got a blood test or anything, just did the imaging. And so I got a second opinion, and then I was like really devastated because I thought, okay, what's going on here? Like my intuition, you know, like I have this female soul that's talking to me. She's very clearly identifying herself. But yet that's not what's happening here. And that's also what jump-started a lot of the postpartum stuff for me, because that was really hard for me to separate the two. So what I ended up doing was on the back end, I was doing a lot of my own spiritual development, taking classes, reading books. I had some mentors that I was mentoring with. I was doing like energy clearings, and I actually had to do an energy clearing with this female soul because after Jackson was born, I was just so depressed and so confused because she was still hanging around, and it was very hard to connect with Jax because I could feel her so strongly. And then there was all sorts of guilt and shame and all sorts of things included in that. So I had to do some like cord cutting and just really separate her and ask her to move on and step away so I could connect with Jackson. So I was doing all of that. And then I was also going to traditional therapy for postpartum depression. I had a doctor in Petaluma reach out to me with one of their programs. I can't remember what it's called, but anybody that has a new baby with the hospital, they have a therapist call you and just ask you questions and fill out a survey. And I knew immediately when I answered the questions that I was going to be asked to come in because I was honest and I had experience with Riley. So I was doing my therapy on the side with my therapist. So I was doing a lot to try and clear a lot of just energy congestion in my space with Jackson. I was trying literally everything to help me get through it. On the physical end, I had some health problems that I didn't know existed. So I was also working with my naturopathic doctor as well to like help clear old hormones and like do all these things to help with my postpartum depression. So yeah, it was an intense time in my life. It was really, really hard.
So like you were saying,
I feel like I went on a tangent.
Parts of our lives bring the most growth.
I would 100% agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It just, and I'm kind of resistant to change. I've always been that way. I'm comfortable. I'm a creature of habit. All at once was just, it really rocked my boat. It was really difficult for me. But it was really important because I'm the type of person that needs to like be forced into change in order to really recognize the growth. And
nothing like a newborn baby to force you into change.
I mean, there's no choice in the matter, right? So, but it was good for me. I'm glad. And that's why I called Jackson my teacher. He taught me a lot, for sure.
Well, I know you had quite a journey with your daughter, even trying to convince her to come to you. So why don't you dip into your conception journey with her?
So Everly was different as well. It took me a long time to have her. Like I said before, I got pregnant the first try with Riley and pretty quickly with Jax, and Everly took about 4 years for her to come. I had a couple of miscarriages in there, and I had a miscarriage like almost a year before she was born. I was still working a lot with my naturopathic doctor to figure out physically what was going on in my body too, to kind of help prepare my body and clear whatever was going on. And I think that really helped in conceiving her. So it was a long, kind of tiring, emotionally exhausting journey to get there. I'm blessed to not have, I mean, I know there's a lot of women that have had a rough journey as well and a harder journey. But it did take a toll on me. And we had almost given up. That's what they say, right? Let it go. And if it's meant to be, it'll come back to you. Well, we did that. And I literally surrendered and let go of it. And it was just one of those things. If it happens, it happens. And we kind of set a date and we're like, okay, if nothing happens past this point, then we'll just let it be and we'll just be happy with what we have. And, we'll just move on from this, because I didn't really want to be pregnant past a certain age. I'm tired now. I can't imagine these people that are older having children are just amazing at how they do it. But we got pregnant and very surprised, very excited. Found out early on through a blood test, which with Riley and Jax, I was never offered a blood test. So I was always waited for the imaging. And so I found out early on what it was.
You mean like the sex of the baby?
Yeah. And I was actually sick with COVID. I found out she was a girl. And it was funny. I was in bed, I'd gotten this random email and it like shot confetti at me and like in the email, and it said, "You're having a girl." And I just wasn't expecting that when I clicked on it to open it. I thought I was going to have to scroll through and like look for something. And it was just very like, "Ta-da, you're having a girl." So my pregnancy with her was interesting. I always felt very disconnected from her when I was pregnant. Energetically, like I didn't feel as connected to her as I did with Riley and even Jackson during that pregnancy. So that it always kind of threw me off. And I don't know if I think I spoke to you about this at one point. I don't know if it's because it had taken so long for that moment to come that it was really hard for me to believe that it was happening. So I don't know if there was like during that process, I kind of built up a little bit of a wall of some kind to emotionally protect me from the disappointment, So on my end, I think that there was a blockage there, a little bit of fear, trying to figure out what was going to happen with this. And even till the moment she came out, I think I kept saying, like, is this real? Is this real? Is this happening? I just, the whole time, even months after she came, I would still look at her and just think, I can't believe this has actually happened.
Yeah. I have a question that I'm sure a lot of people listening are wondering too. Do you feel like her soul is the soul that you asked to like
You're gonna ask that, and you know what? It was interesting because when it finally got past that point, the 12, 16 weeks or whatever, when you start to feel a little bit more comfortable about your pregnancy, I remember we started talking about names, and I remember thinking, okay, is this, this probably sounds so weird to most people, but like in my head, I was thinking, is this the same? Would it, if it's not, would it be weird to name the baby the same name that we had chosen with the second pregnancy? And I had to think on that for a while. It felt really weird to me. And I had to kind of confide in a spiritual friend of mine who's also my massage therapist, and just kind of talk with her about it. And because it was, I don't know, it was just such a weird thing. It was hard to get out of my head about it.
Well, because that baby felt so real to you for so long.
It felt so real. It's like kind of, it feels weird even saying, but it almost felt kind of like, am I betraying this soul? Like she chose not to come, so, but we really love this name, but the name reminds me of this experience, so it was kind of complicated. But I do think it is the same soul. I do think so. I think that she underwent some more growth on her end because her energy changed. She wasn't as, the second pregnancy, she was really intense, like really in your face, in my space, just constant. And the second time around felt different. And even holding her just feels different. But the essence is still the same, if that makes sense. I don't really know how to describe that in a better way, but she feels like she's the same soul. And I think she went through her growth on her end, and I went through my growth on my end to prepare me for her. And it just was the way it was supposed to be.
And it worked out. It took 4 years.
It did take 4 years. Took a long time, but it happened the way it was supposed to happen. I was worried about the age gap. And the more every day I'm reminded, and it reinforces the idea that this is exactly the way it was supposed to be. So it worked out.
So how did this pregnancy unfold for you?
So her pregnancy, such an interesting pregnancy because it was during all of the COVID stuff. So I felt very isolated with this pregnancy. Again, I wasn't very comfortable being pregnant to begin with, so that was kind of hard on me. But physically, it wasn't a hard pregnancy. It was a relatively easygoing pregnancy. I had a lot of back pain with her, my tailbone and stuff, like down in my hip area, which I'm sure is just all the stuff from before my other pregnancies. And just typical stuff like heartburn and there wasn't like a lot really wrong, a lot of stuff that I really had to deal with her until the end. I started getting the preterm labor with her, and she started even earlier, I think, if my memory serves me correctly.
What's your memory?
I want to say she started around like 34 weeks. I started having like preterm stuff.
It was like 33 weeks.
Yeah, 33, 34. Yeah, that makes sense.
I remember having a conversation with you about like, okay, Like your sons came at 36, 37. Like, how soon are you comfortable having this baby at home?
Right.
Because legally it's 37, but knowing
Right.
how like short gestation you've had and the babies have been
Mm-hmm.
fine, like would you be comfortable having your baby at home earlier if they came
Mm-hmm.
later? And I remember you just saying at least get to 35. Like 36 would be ideal, but at least 35. And we're like,
Yeah.
okay, 2 more weeks.
Yeah, that makes sense. That feels right. And I mean, I had a lot of nausea and morning sickness with all three babies, but with her, it lasted the longest. And I think combined with having COVID and all sorts of other things, I felt like I was sick for like 3 months. But she started wanting to come early as well. And that made me a little nervous. So working with you, I, did the Epsom salt baths and working with mental ways to keep her in there, visualization, talking with her, trying to just begging her not to come out. And then she listened, she hung in there, she stopped, but the cramping would come and go. So for several weeks, what was it, 5 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever it was, like it was on and off. It would start, I would have pretty consistent cramping for, 5-6 hours, just stop. And then it would go for a couple days and then it would come back again. And it was just this roller coaster. So by the time she came, I was just so ready for her to come. I was really ready.
I remember because you were having these contractions that were every 5 minutes at night. And you're like, I'm not even going to know when to call you,
No.
And I was like, you'll know. Something will be different and you'll know.
I was having these flashbacks of Jackson, being in the bathtub, and she's like, oh, are you ready? Like, do you think this is it? And I'm like, man, I don't know. I just really don't know. And he came super fast. And my fear, and I had talked to you about that, was that it was going to happen again. And it did. I'm not gonna lie. The universe was like, yeah, you haven't learned this lesson yet. So we're going to do this again. And so I had almost a very similar experience with Everly. So she lasted until the day before my due date and decided that was going to be the day. And she came.
Which for anyone listening, just as a reminder, 36 weeks, 37 weeks, and then 40. So if you were like kind of on the edge of our pants, like starting at 33 weeks, because we're like, is she going to come early? Is she going to stay? And so it just makes those 7 weeks feel even longer because
so long.
You're like so ready every moment of the day. And
you just never know when it's going to happen. I had a bag, all my stuff out. I had the bags packed. I had like everything for so long. That was a hard pill to swallow, the back and forth. But
how were you once you went past like 37 and you were like, where's my baby?
I was shocked, actually. I really was for quite a long time. I thought for sure she was going to come early. I had 2 kids who I went through the same thing with, and they both came on the earlier side, right? They weren't super early, but they were earlier. And I thought, no way, my 3rd child, Jackson went 6 hours, of a labor start to finish. There's no way that would last till I did. And so I was definitely shocked. And I was like, okay, joke's over. Like, you can come out now, like, let's do this.
Did you ever have, I can keep hearing my echo. Did you ever have like fears come up or anything like that? Or were you just more like, come on?
I think the main fear that I had was that my husband wouldn't be there. I think I spoke to you about that. It was like a few days before she came. It was my last visit with you before she came out, and you did that game with me, and we had to discuss fears and try to kind of guess the date that we thought she was going to come and all that stuff. And my fear was that I was going to have to do it on my own. And I was really worried about that. And I think that's the only fear that really came up for me And also because I was doing a home birth for the first time. Like COVID really kind of forced me to do something that I had always wanted to do, but I was kind of always hesitant to do. I had 2 hospital births. I did not want to have a baby with the mask on, and I did not want to have the restrictions on me, and the pressure of just them changing their procedures every week and not knowing what was going to happen. I really wanted some stability. And so that having a home birth really helped me take control of my environment and my experience, which I really appreciated. I wish I had figured that out sooner, but third time's a charm. And so, but there was fear around having a home birth because I'd never done it before. Not fear of the home birth, but just the not knowing what was going to happen. Like I had 2 experiences of a hospital birth and something completely different. So just the unknown, that's a scary thing for me, not knowing. So I kind of forced myself into it in a good way.
Go ahead and dive into her birth story and how did you know it was real?
Oh, geez. Well, that day, that fateful day, they were doing like some Valentine's thing at the boys' charter school that they were going to. And so I was in the kitchen by myself, husband at work again. I had been having contractions on and off all day, not feeling very good, feeling like crap. And but just once again rolling with it because that's how my life had been for 5 weeks, so it had been my normal. And standing in the kitchen filling Valentine's Day bags for 2 kids. So I had like 20 something Valentine's Day bags that I was filling, and just feeling so sick. And I just remember thinking like, okay, I'm going to put the kids in bed early. Like I'm going to go rest, get in bed because I'm just really not feeling very good. And so I did that. Got in bed. I remember feeling really physically uncomfortable. It was probably about 10 o'clock and just my body ached. It was that same similar feeling that I had with Riley, which was interesting. I didn't have with Jax, but with Everly I did. And just kind of feeling tired and just off. And then I remember trying to go to sleep and starting to really feel pain, not just uncomfortableness. And so it got to the point where I text messaged my husband and I said, it's funny too, because he called me that night and he said, hey, I got asked to work some overtime. There's an emergency. How are you feeling? Is it okay if I go to work? And I'm like, I feel the same that I felt the last few weeks. So as long as
she's never gonna come.
Yeah, I'm like, as long as you can leave whenever you need to, then I guess it's fine, and just check in with me. So I texted him and I said, hey, you might check in with your supervisor because I think you should come home. I really don't feel good. And he said, really, are you sure? Have you spoken to Sophia? And I said, well, I haven't messaged her yet, but I think you should come home. He's like, well, talk to her first and see what she says and then get back to me. So I text you. I don't remember when I text you. It was like, what, 11 something, 12? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
It was like 11:30, I feel like. Because I had gotten in the bathtub and I was soaking in there, not with Epsom salts, because I didn't want her to stay, but just kind of with some essential oils and just the warm water really, really helped with Jackson. So I was trying that again. And that was also what my plan was for her to come. So I was just trying to be as comfortable as I could. I texted you from the bathtub and I just remember wondering, like, is this it? And you asked me, well, how do you feel? And I said, I feel this, contractions, they're coming every so many minutes. But this happened just a couple days ago, and then it stopped, and I think, weren't you at another birth?
No. So your contractions started, my record says, at 10 p.m. and I got to your house at 1:20 a.m. So it probably took me 30
I remember,
minutes.
I think I texted you at like 11:30, and we had the conversation, and then because I remember soaking in the bath for a while, and it was getting worse, and that's when I text messaged you. And then you asked me, how did you phrase it? You asked me, because I was wondering if you should come or not. And you said something like, well, how did you say that?
I think what I said was, if there's any part of your body that thinks that I should come, then I should come. And if I end up going home, it's fine. But
that's what you said.
A piece of you that thinks that you should come.
And so I told you yes. And so you came. And I just remember being in the bathtub, the boys were sleeping. And I remember thinking in my head, Nate's not home. All the lights are locked. The house is locked up. The lights are off. Like, everything is closed up for the night because he's gone, and I thought we were going to bed. So I had to muster the energy to get up and like walk around and open the house up to come, because I'm like, how's she going to get in? Because I thought I was going to be stuck in the bathtub. And so I hobbled down the stairs, unlocked the door, turned the low lights on, and I kind of was just walking around the kitchen trying to stay mobile. Horrible pain, really, really bad pains. And then you knocked on the door and you came in and you were hustling around trying to fill up the tub and get everything together. And I just remember being really nervous because Nate wasn't there. And I pretty close together. And so I thought she was going to just slide right out because Jackson came out so fast, and so I finally got in the tub, and which was a different experience for me too. Because I was talking to Nate about this afterwards, and I remember saying, like, with a hospital birth, they're constantly like talking to you and telling you what to do, like, oh, let's do this. Oh, we're going to do that. Oh, try this. Maybe you should do that. And so they're always kind of guiding you. And I remember asking you all those questions and thinking to myself, why isn't she telling me to do this? And why isn't she telling me to do that? And you were like wanting me to focus in on my intuition, which obviously I should be doing, but I was so used to people telling me what to do. It was such a different experience. And I remember feeling a little out of control in that moment because it's just not what I had experienced. And you feel out of control anyway, physically, because your body's moving to push a child out and you don't really have a choice in the matter. It's time, it's happening. And then I felt like, I don't know how to explain that. I just felt uneasy because nothing that you had done, but just me on my end with my stuff. Like it was hard for me to drop in and be like, what does my body want? What is my body asking for? What feels good? What doesn't feel good? Because you're trying not to focus on the contractions and not to focus on the fact that my husband wasn't there and everything was just swirling and happening so fast. So it was hard to be like, okay, this position feels good and this one doesn't. So I just got in that tub and just stayed in the same position. I didn't even try to do something different. I just was like, okay, we're doing it like this, and just made a decision. And I actually felt really dizzy, which is when you introduced the oxygen. Nauseous, obviously, throwing up. that's always fun. And I remember when Nate came in, he walked into the house and you saw me in the tub. And I remember seeing his face. And I think you like kind of whispered to him, like, you know, like it's time, like it's happening. And the look on his face was like, holy shit, you know, like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on here, but
You could say it.
yeah, holy shit. Cause he just wasn't expecting that, you know? And he was like kind of frantically trying to like, he ran over to me and I remember stopping what I was doing and looking at him and being like, did you wash your hands? Because he came from work and he's like, oh shoot. So he went and washed his hands and then he came back to help me. And then I continued to push and I really didn't think that I could do it. I kept having to talk myself into the process. Like my mind wanted me to leave my body and I wanted to be present and I had to keep talking myself into it. And so I did it.
Do you remember how soon after he got there she was born?
It felt fast.
My memory says it was like 10 or 20 minutes. Like
it wasn't long because my memory, I thought I texted you at like 11:30. I think you got there at like 12:15, 12:20 or something like that. And he didn't get home until like 12:45, 12:50. And then she was born at like, I think 1:15 or 1:20, I think you said it was.
So my notes say that I got there at 1:20, that he got there at almost
12:20, right? Because she was born at 1.
It says that she was born at 2:20.
2:20, yeah.
So I got there like an hour before she was born, and then he got there like half an hour before she was born.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
But I mean, oh God, so bad too. I don't even know the time my child was born. 3 children, you start to forget things. But no, it was really fast. I just remember he was there. I was vomiting. I was in a lot of pain. And he was literally talking me into what I was doing. I was trying to talk myself into what I was doing. And then she came out. And I remember when she came out, she like fell into the water. And I don't know how long it was, but it was at least a few seconds. And neither one of us grabbed her. And I remember he was saying, I remember hearing you say, does anybody want to grab her out of the water? Oh my God. And so Nate like picked her up and put her on my chest. And I'm pretty sure I must have went into shock because I just immediately started shaking and nothing felt real. Everything felt super surreal. It was way overwhelming. My senses were just misfiring. Everything was happening. And then we just sat in the water for a while. I remember having to push out the placenta and complaining about it. And then, like, can you just go in there and take it out? Like, do I have to push it? And yeah, just being in complete and utter amazement. And I should say this was kind of the coolest part about everything. Speaking of, here's one of my children. Oh, nice. Hold on, baby. He's telling me about the tomatoes in the garden. I should say the boys were there for this. I forgot to mention that. That was a big decision for us and for them. My oldest was a little bit more nervous about it because he's uncomfortable when people are in pain. Other people, he's a little empathic. And so it's really uncomfortable for him to see other people in pain. And Jackson was like, yeah, I want to catch her. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I want to just be in there with her. Can I get in the pool with you? But they were sleeping when all this was happening. So when I was actively pushing her out, obviously I was loud and it woke them up. And so they watched from the balcony. They watched it happen. I think you said something to them or mouthed to them or something. And they watched it happen. And then as soon as she came out, they came down and they were right there when she came up and was put on my chest, and they were part of the whole thing. So that was really special too. Just to have everybody together and to teach my boys what women are capable of. And then also like just the magic and the physical process of what it's like to have a child and be a part of it, I think is a really cool experience. So there she was. There she was.
One of every once in a while I have like stories that I like grab onto and share. And yours is a really frequent story that I share with moms. And the story goes that postpartum, immediately postpartum, when we're like getting you comfortable on the couch and everything, and you look at us and you're like, ladies, you're gonna have to suture me. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I thought for sure.
Split is gone. Like
it was obliterated.
So bad.
Sure.
And we're like, no problem, we'll take care of you. And then when we looked, we're like, you don't have a scratch on you.
It felt like she ripped me apart. I would have paid somebody $1 million like that. I thought for sure I would have bet money on it. Like, and no, I got lucky. And
this is not an uncommon story. We have women who are like, oh my God, ladies, like it's going to be bad down there. And we always share that story with them that like, you never know, it could feel really intense because a really intense thing just happened and you can still be like totally intact, and it happens.
It's so funny, 3 times into this, and I still am amazed at what my body is capable of. Like, I don't know. And it's just, and 3 times into this, I still had fear about what my body may or may not be capable of, and I was still working that out too. And just continued to be pretty impressed with myself, pat on the back, that I was able to do it. And I'm glad I did it. I'm proud of myself for doing it. I appreciate you ladies being there to support me through it. Yeah, it was just, I wish I'd done it sooner, for sure.
Yeah,
I do.
Well, the last thing I wanted to touch base on, because I know we're short on time. I know you had some journeys with tongue tie, and I wanted to see if you wanted to just touch on that. Just in case there's other families going through something similar.
Yeah, weirdly, all 3 of my kids were tongue tied. Riley, I didn't find out until several weeks. I can't remember how many. It was like probably like 3 weeks, going close to a month before I realized I was tongue tied. I had been checking in with the lactation specialists and the doctors, and nobody said anything about it. And then I had been having so much trouble, and I was getting infections and all these things. And finally they're like, yeah, I think he's tongue tied. So by the time I got it corrected, I had already had these infections that I was having trouble getting rid of. So unfortunately, I didn't get to breastfeed with him as long as I wanted to. So I was pumping, and then there just was so much pain involved. I gave up like 3 months into it, and I really harbor a lot of regret about that. But I also couldn't do much about it. Jackson was also tongue-tied, but we were in the hospital, and I threw a huge fit because I was like, I'm not leaving the hospital until somebody fixes this, because I immediately knew what to look for, and I saw it, and I was just determined to not have the same issues with breastfeeding. So I was able to I called his pediatrician, and I was like, you need to make some phone calls because I'm not leaving this hospital until they fix it. And he got it taken care of for me. And so I was able to get it corrected at the hospital before we left. And then Everly was different. She was also tongue-tied, but hers was a little bit of a different situation. She didn't have as much of a tie as the boys did, but she also had it in combination with her mouth, like the size of her mouth. She just had a really shallow, like small mouth and small latch. And so it made the tongue tie feel worse than it probably was. And so I, luckily through you, was able to have a chiropractor come to the house and do some craniosacral therapy with her. And then it took a couple days, but we were able to get an appointment with a lot of pressure on the doctor's office to get her tie corrected. And then I continued to do some cranial sacral therapy with her for several weeks. And I do it every now and then still to this day, just to kind of, keep the momentum going with the breastfeeding. It was really difficult to breastfeed with her at the beginning. Super painful, like toe curling pain, bleeding, blisters, all of it. But I was so determined to make it work. So I was doing everything that I could. So I definitely recommend, if you feel like something's wrong, to not give up, just keep pushing and find support with it. I was doing lactation specialists through Zoom, and, unfortunately COVID made it really hard to see people and get in with the doctors and stuff. So that was a little frustrating. But I was lucky to find the support of the chiropractors and the lactation support on Zoom. And then also just my experience from my two kids prior. So yeah, that was my experience with tongue ties.
Yeah, not fun.
No, it's not fun.
You have
breastfeeding is its own entity, it's its own thing. And so when you have anything that complicates it, it's so stressful. But my experience with Riley really pushed me to make sure I could breastfeed. So I wasn't about to give up through any of it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was fun to remember everything and take the journey back in time.
Yeah, reminisce.
Yeah, reminisce.
Yeah.
So I hope you ladies are doing well. I miss everybody.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Don't forget our community gatherings coming up.
I know. I seriously want to come. I've been literally running ragged. We're traveling a lot for the boys racing and all these things. And so I just have had bad luck every time it comes out.
Not to tempt you even more, but we have free massages for moms. So
well, then I'm canceling everything and I'll be there. No, I will definitely be at one in the future. I hope that the next one, the timing just works out, because it's just been overlapping everything. But yes, I will definitely keep in touch because I love you guys. So I want to see everybody.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Thank you. You guys have a good night.
Thanks everybody for listening. You can find us at Born Wild Podcast on Instagram. For inquiries or feedback, you can email us at bornwildpodcast@gmail.com. You can find me, Emma Ray, on Instagram at Emma Ray, REA.
Sophia at sophiabirth.com. And me, Leah, at Bay Area Home Birth.
We would really appreciate it if you would rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps us reach more people. And as always,
Stay wild.